Well, good morning. Look, I'm some kind of show, right? There's a sign right up in front of me. It's 8:30 here in cold North Dakota. I got a catering job tomorrow. 9 a.m. breakfast. It's kind of weird how. Well, anyway, today, just for today, right now, just for this moment. We're in Mark. We're in the book of Mark. Everybody's asleep, so thank God. Well, little guys went to school. Blows my mind. Just they has these they have these kids stay up all night, and then they get mad at them the next day when they don't get up early to go to school. So you're the adults, whatever. None of my concern. I'm in this room, and anyway, just blows my mind. Just blows my mind. So how's everybody out there doing today, huh? My face is getting a little weirder. Praying about it. Please keep me in prayer concerning this. I feel like taking a knife and just or a sharp object and popping it. Someone told me that it would grow back because of something. I don't know. I gotta go to the doctors, I guess. I've been praying about it. Keep me in prayer concerning that. Thank you. I appreciate that. There's actually a church building here in Mandaree that's shut down. Looks like it was the First Baptist Church at one time. A friend of mine who I know told me about it. He said get me in touch with the lady, but I'm praying about it. I don't want to do stuff. I really don't. Not that I don't want to do stuff because I can do anything. There's nothing I can't do by God's grace. It's just I don't want to move on my own at all. Even though I have great ideas. I have this one idea that would take me across the United States, but I'll be straight up, and I probably get funded for it too. But I don't want to move. Oh look, Mady rings. What do you guys think? I made them before, but I think these ones turned out really good. I got this other idea I'm going to do too. Kind of do like a medicine shield with a feather in the middle. We'll see. I got the schematics when I was making those ones because it came out okay. Anyway, we are in. It's pretty warm in here. I'm gonna close the vent. It's pretty warm in here. Anyway, hopefully that was the case, right? Hope not. Anyway, today is Wednesday. I gotta go shopping here pretty soon for my ingredients for the stuff I need for the catering job. Gotta have coffee for sure. Gotta get more cream. Gotta get me more real sugar. That I don't like the white sugar anymore. It's kind of funny because my family would tell me cut down. They used to put 4 scoops. Now I'm down to 2. 2. I'm actually down to 2, like they asked me to. I never thought I'd do that. I know when I was with them, I cut it down to 3. Now I'm down to 2. For reals, I'm sick of that. I'm sick of the taste of it. I really can taste chemical. It's so weird. Anyway, we're in Mark chapter 5, verse 1. And they came over into this other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs. No man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been put asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces. Neither could any man tame him. And I think I shared this in the previous video that I had experienced stuff like this. Not that I've seen someone break chains or break tongs, leather tongs or whatever, but I actually seen this young person lift 3 grown men up. They were holding her down, and she with ease lifted them up. One was probably 230, the other one 170, the other one maybe 150. So you figure that's about at least 500 pounds. And with ease, lifted those guys off her. Not they were on top of her, but holding her down with their hands. She just, no problem. So I've seen this. I've seen, not that I want to get too deep into what demons do or don't do, because that's none of my concern. I know when Jesus cast them out, he didn't ask them for their psychological background. Not that they have one because they don't have brains, but you get it. That, anyway, mentality that we have, I guess you'd say. The way we function. Okay. He has dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken to pieces. Neither could any man tame him. That's, wow. I see that a lot. I don't see it in the extremities of that. But being bound by something, being like that. It's hard to get out. Well, it's hard to get out. That's why you need support. That's why you need, people around you. Hardly have that. That's hardly ever shown. Anyway, let's get back to this. And always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. I felt when I was younger, felt like that. I remember I'd, be disobedient to God, and it wasn't a punishment. It wasn't a tit for tat, or a you're doing that, so you're gonna. No. It was just basically what it is. You play with fire, you're gonna get burned. Simple rules of life. And honestly, I remember this one time. I didn't want to wake up. But at the same time, I didn't want to stay asleep. Because I didn't know where I'd end up. Or I kind of had an idea where I'd end up. And I'm not talking about hell. I'm talking about regret. I'm talking about, God giving us so much and me rejecting it, Because life is pretty amazing. I mean, when you get down to it, life is pretty darn amazing. It is, the way it functions and the way the body's set up. It's just phenomenal. Anyway, and I felt like that. I didn't, and there were times I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh crap, here he is again. Here's this loser again, Not now, don't get me wrong. I'm just sharing how this guy was in the mountain, in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stone. Wow. That person that was demon possessed, I literally seen them take a knife and cut themselves without fail. I know some people call it, what do they call it? They call it, what do they call it? Self-mutilation, I think they call it. Psychological thing type area. Okay. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him. Now notice that. Let me read that again. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him. Notice, that doesn't mean the demons inside of him broke into song. That don't mean they started singing Amazing Grace, or, because they call singing worship. That shows you right there that that's not what it is. But basically, they acknowledged who he is. They acknowledged who he is, ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice and said, "What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not." Now notice. See, we don't get the full scope and understanding of what's really happening here. Satan is supposed to be their king, their leader, their God. Think about that. Satan is supposed to be their dude. Because people portray that. The religions portray that, project that. Here's the devil, here's God. That's what they do. Here's the dark, here's the light. Here's you, and they're both after your soul. Not true. Not true. But that's what they portray. Look at this. I adjure thee by God. Not by Satan, not by our God, by our main dude. No. I adjure thee by God, meaning God himself. Which tells you they're still subject to him, even though they're not subject to him. Wow. Let me read that again. What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not. Hello. Hell. Oh. Come on, man. They make these stories up about them attacking us, about them. Oh, and look at this. Hello. It's not a fight. It's not a battle. Please don't torment me. Wow. They're making a request. They're making a, that's heavy. For he said unto him, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Wow. Now there was there. I mean, this is crazy. This demonic stuff, fallen angels, if you will, go. And they're asking Jesus, please don't do this to us. Come on, folks. Still subject to God. Still adherent to the authority that's over them. Come on, folks. Now there was not unto the mountain a great herd of swine feeding, and all the devils besought him, all of them together, besought him, saying, Send us into the swine that we may enter into them. They're making a request. If you will, they're praying. They're actually, these are demons. Disregarded, Wow. And they're not antagonizing. They're not saying, look how long we had this guy in bondage. Look how long we've kept him down. Look, none of that. Besought him, send us into the swine that we may enter into them. They're making a request. How does the word say it? Be careful for nothing, but in all things by prayer and supplication, make your requests known unto God. I like that one scripture. I believe it's in John. Henceforth have you asked me for nothing. Ask that you receive, and that your joy may be full. Ask the Father what you will, he will give it to you. Wow. And I can't say, I really can't. For myself, I can share a little from my own stuff. Okay, continuing on. Forthwith Jesus gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out, entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea, and were choked in the sea. And they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and the country, and they went out to see what was done, what it was that was done. And they came to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. See, because again, if we look at the factors of him being tied down, him being, going through the process of being tamed or controlled or taken care of and all that stuff, everything that man could do, could possibly do, couldn't be answered. I always think of that lady with the issue of blood. To live with something like that, an issue of blood. How long did she bleed? And yet she never bled to death. The guy that laid by the pool waiting for it to be stirred so he can get in, but nobody could put him in because, somebody else go down before him. How long? The lepers, the blind guys. How long? And here's this guy. How long? And there he is in his right mind, and they're afraid. They were afraid. They were in fact wanting to fix this guy. They tried everything they could, because everybody knew who he was. Come on, look at your city, look at whatever village you live in, look at whatever surrounding community you have. And everybody knows who the crazy one is. Everybody knows who the gossiper is. Everybody knows who the promiscuous person is. Everybody knows. They could say, oh yeah, I know that crazy one. Oh yeah, I know that. So everybody knew this guy. Everybody knew, that guy, the guy that was in the tombs, in the cemetery, cutting himself with stones. We're in Mark's chapter 5, if anybody's joining in. We're in verse 5:15. So everybody knew who he was. Everybody knew the possessed guy. Oh yeah. We tried to help him. We put chains on him, and he broke the chains. We tied him down with fetters to keep him safe, and he's still, because if he's cutting himself, he's hurting himself. And they're trying to stop him from doing that, and he still did. Man's efforts proved nothing. Man's efforts didn't help. Man's efforts are limited. And all of a sudden, God shows up. Jesus shows up. And things take place. And now they're afraid. The people in the communities that know who he is, the people that tried to help him, now they're afraid. It says it right there. Let me read that again. 5:15 of Mark. And they came to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion sitting and clothed in his right mind. And they were afraid. Sitting and clothed in his right mind. What happened? What happened to him? How the heck did this happen? And they that saw it told him how it befell to him that was possessed with the devil, and all concerning this, also concerning the swine. And they began to pray him to depart out of their coasts. We don't want you here. We don't want you here. This is weird, you know. And when he was coming to the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. Howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but saith unto him, Go home, go to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord had done for thee, and had great compassion on thee. And he departed and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for him. And all men did marvel. When Jesus was passed over again by a ship into the other side, much people gathered unto him. And he was nigh unto the sea, and behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. And he saw him, he fell at his feet, and he besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee, come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live. And Jesus went with him. Much people followed him and thronged him. Okay. Now keep in mind, this guy's a ruler of the synagogue. And Jesus went with him, and much people followed and thronged him. And a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, there she is, the lady with the 12 years of issue of blood, 12 years of bleeding, 12 years, 12 years, and had suffered many things by many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing better, but rather grew worse. Hello, let me read that again. See man's efforts, folks. We look at the previous gentleman. They tied him down. Didn't work. And it says it in there. No man could tame him, which tells you that they tried. They tried to tame him. Here's this lady. Had an issue of blood 12 years, verse 26, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing better, but rather grew worse. Spent all that she had, but she grew worse. Wow. When she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind him and touched his garment, for she said, and this is what she said, If I may but touch his clothes, I shall be whole. She told herself that. All things are possible to him that believes. Therefore I say unto you, whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you shall have them. Mark 11:23 and 24. He shall have whatsoever he says. In this case, she. And she told herself that, and she believed it. This is the craziest part. That as Jesus is there and he's, handling everybody and dealing with the situations, he's already got in his mind, I'm going with this leader, a ruler of the synagogue, a high up. I'm going with him, right? And she's telling herself, all I got to do is touch his clothes. That's all I got to do, and I'll be made well. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. Healed. Healed. Powerful. Jesus, believed, knowing himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, Who touched my clothes? Wow. Getting God's attention. I remember, it's kind of crazy. I don't know why I bring this in, but I've been around. It's kind of funny because the way God let me teach, the way God reveals stuff to me, the way God let me do stuff. And I'm not bad. I'm not the greatest, but I'm not bad at what I do. I'm pretty good. Like I don't know if you guys seen this yet, but I'm creating this. It's probably going to be about $7,000 to $8,000 when I'm done. And I love doing stuff like that. I'm just a creator of things. That's beadwork, by the way, sewn in the canvas. Writer, I like to write. I can show you some of my writings. I could show you some stuff that I do. And I'm pretty good. I remember I was living in Tacoma, and I've been to different places. And granted, yes, my psyche gets a little bigger than it should. A lot bigger than it should. It does. It really does. I get a little big for my britches, I guess you'd say. So I'm amongst these folks. I'm quite the dude. People come to talk to me. People come to listen to me. I'm master of my domain, I guess you'd say. And this bedhead, by the way. And so I put a hat on. And I remember this. I'd get around. And granted, yes, I'd go there and I go, I'm going to shut these guys down. I'm going to show them what I can do. That stuff. Someone's here. I don't know if you guys can hear the door in the background. But yeah, I would do that. And I remember anyway, I remember one particular time that I went to this place and someone caught my attention by the spirit they were speaking by. Floored me. I hadn't been around that in a while. I hadn't seen that in a while. And like Jesus, when he was touched, noticed. And I noticed this person. I was like, wait a minute. Anyway, who touched me? And his disciples said unto him, Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, who touched me? Look at all these people, bro. Look at all these folks. There's all kinds of people around, man. All kinds of people around. And you're saying, who touched me? And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done to her in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace and be whole of thy plague. While he yet spake, so this lady's made whole. If you will, God confirms it to her. Because us, we have a limited thing. We're fickle. Happy 1 minute, sad the next. Happy 1 minute, sad the next. So he confirms it to her. You're good. While he yet spake, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, Thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master any further? It's over. It's done. In my mind, if I was the dude, because I love my daughters, if I was the dude, I'd have been like, this is my mind. dude, why'd you stop to talk to that broad, man? This guy came within seconds. You could have been there and healed her before she died. That's my mentality. As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said unto the ruler of the synagogue, be not afraid, only believe. And he suffered no man to follow him, save Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And he cometh to the house of the ruler's synagogue, and seeth the tumult, and them that wept and wailed greatly. When he was coming, he saith unto them, why make you this ado and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. And that's how it looks to him. Being dead is like being asleep to him. That's what that is. And they laughed him to scorn. How'd they go from wailing to laughing? Shows you how fake they are. But when he had put them all out, he taketh the father and the mother of the damsel and them that were with him, and entereth in where the damsel was lying, took the damsel by the hand, and said unto her, Talitha cumi, which being interpreted, damsel, I say unto thee, arise. And straightway the damsel arose and walked, for she was the age of 12 years, and they were astonished with a great astonishment. Isn't that cool? I like the way they word that. They were astonished with a great astonishment. And he charged them straightly that no man should know it, and commanded that something should be given her to eat. Chapter 6. And he went out from thence and came into his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many hearing him were astonished, saying, from whence hath this man these things? And what wisdom is this which is given to him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James, and Joseph, and Judah, and Simon? Notice that they mentioned his brothers. And no. Though most religions like to say that Joseph already had these kids, and when he married her, he had them, so they were his stepkids. Baloney. Joseph and Mary had sexual intercourse after Jesus was born, and they had children together. Period. So she's not that religions try to make her out to be. Yes, granted, there's no question. She provided the flesh for God to dwell in. Yes. But that was her part, and that was it. Sorry to say. There's more teaching in that. We'll get into that later. But yeah. And no, she was not immaculate. She wasn't birthed immaculately. That's what Catholic religion likes to say. Liars. They are liars. Period. And are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him. But Jesus said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house. And he could there do no mighty work, save that he laid hands upon a few sick folk and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief, and he went around about the villages teaching. And he called unto him the 12 and began to send them forth by 2 and 2. I used to always think, man, I wouldn't have been the one that wanted that. I wouldn't have wanted to have been the one that went with Judas. I don't know who teamed up with him, but I wouldn't want to be with him. And he gave them power over unclean spirits, and commanded them that they should take nothing for their journey, save a staff only, no scrip, no bread, no money in their purse, but be shod with sandals, and not put on 2 coats. And he said unto them, in what place soever you enter into an house, there abide till you depart from that place. And whosoever shall not receive you nor hear you, when you depart, then shake off the dust under your feet. For a testimony against them, verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that city. And they went out and preached that men should repent. And they cast out many devils, anointed with oil many that were sick, and he healed them. And King Herod heard of him, and he said that John the Baptist was risen from the dead. Therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him. Here's a king who was told by a prophet, your brother's wife you're not supposed to have. And just basically, now he's saying he rose from. Think about that. Others said that it is Elias. Another said that it is a prophet or as one of the prophets. But when Herod heard thereof, he said, It is John whom I have beheaded, whom I beheaded. He is risen from the dead. For Herod himself has sent forth and laid hold upon John and bound him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. For he had married her. For John had said unto Herod, It is not lawful for thee to have thy brother's wife. Now why was John up in this guy's face? Herod. Why? Well, you see, the significance of God choosing Jerusalem to put his name there, and whatever king was over it, still abided by that, what God put there. Okay? So because it abided by what God had placed there, whoever was in charge of that region at that time still had that. Because we read it in Acts when Herod gave a speech. There was actually a religion called the Herodians that followed Herod. Think about it. Okay. Because of the significance of the stories of Israel pertaining to the Red Sea opening, pertaining to the walls of Jericho falling down, pertaining to the plagues, they even talk about it to this day. Even science does. Science tries to find some natural causes to explain what went on there. Wow. It's funny how that is. Anyway, and so the stories go down. And Israel, being a mighty kingdom, banished away. Still, the hints of it was still there. I remember a gentleman was sharing about how he had this vision. And I've had the same thing, so I can share this because I've had the same setting. But this gentleman had a vision. And in this vision, he was in a building, and it was a long corridor, really long. And he's in this corridor, and there's someone next to him. He couldn't say if it was Jesus or not, but he said there was someone next to him. And the person next to him asked him and said, Do you want to see Satan? And he said his own words. He said, I was thrown off a little bit. I was thrown off because I was like, wow, you mean the evil one? You mean the devil? Satan? Yeah, you want to see him. So they walk down this hallway, and he gets to this door, and this person tells him, open that door. And he opens the door, and he looked in, and there was a guy standing there. And he said he was in a suit, and he was looking out a window. And he said he was dressed so nice, and you could still see hints of the glory on him. He wasn't this horned, reptile-like evil thing. But he said, wow. And it's funny because my wife had the same thing happen to her. Anyway, he was shocked. He was shocked. So Herod, this guy, being a king. Anyway, let me get back to this. So this is why John pronounced against him, because he was representing this reflections of what went on in that area where God had placed his name. So he's on him. Therefore, Herodias had a quarrel against him and would have killed him. Oh, no, excuse me. Oh, yeah. Herodias, which was Herod's brother's wife, had a quarrel against him and would have killed him, but she could not. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just man and holy, and observed him. But when he heard him, he did many things and heard him gladly. Hello? And when a convenient day was come, that Herod on his birthday made a supper to his lords, high captains, and chief estates of Galilee. And when the daughter of said Herodias came in, meaning his niece, and danced and pleased Herod and them that sat with him, the king said unto the damsel, Ask me whatsoever thou wilt, and I will give it thee. And And he sware unto her, Whatsoever thou wilt ask of me, I will give it thee unto the half of my kingdom. She went forth and said unto her mother, What shall I ask? And she said, The head of John the Baptist. She came straightway with haste unto the king and asked, saying, I will that thou give me by and by in a charger the head of John the Baptist. And the king was exceeding sorry, yet for his oath's sake, and for their sakes which sat with him, he would not reject her. And immediately the king sent an executioner, commanded his head to be brought. And he went and beheaded him in the prison, and brought his head on a charger, and gave it to the damsel. And the damsel gave it to her mother. And when the disciples heard of it, they came and took his corpse and laid it in a tomb. Now here's the thing. I asked God, I said, why would John's head have to be taken from him? Because I got to tell you, this is the seriousness of it. There's only one head of the church, and that's Jesus Christ, period. Period. And the apostles gathered themselves together unto Jesus and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said unto them, Come you yourselves apart into a desert place and rest a while. And there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. And they departed into a desert place by ship privately. And the people saw them departing, and many knew him, and ran afoot thither out of all the cities, and outwent them, and came together unto him. And Jesus, when he came out, saw much people, and was moved with compassion toward them, because they were as sheep, not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when the day was now far spent, his disciples came unto him and said, This is a desert place, and now the time is far past. Send them away, that they may go into the country round about, and into the villages, and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. He answered and said unto them, Give you them to eat. And they said unto him, Shall we go and buy 200 penny worth of bread, and give them to eat? He saith unto them, How many loaves have you? Go and see. And when they knew, they said, 5 and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make all sit down by companies upon the green grass. And they sat down in ranks, by hundreds and by fifties. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven and blessed and brake the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set before them. And the 2 fishes he divided among them. And they did all eat and were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments of the fishes. And they did eat of the loaves, were about 5,000. And straightway he constrained his disciples to go into the ship, and go into the other side, into the Bethsaida, while he sent away the people. Nothing was getting bigger. Oh well. And when he had sent them away, he departed to a mountain to pray. And when evening was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that one. Anyway, we're in verse 43 minutes. We're barely in 6. Might have to do an extra day. I don't know. Anyway. And when evening was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. And he saw them toiling and rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. And about the 4th watch of the night, he cometh unto them walking upon the sea, and would have passed by them. But when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, and cried out, for they all saw him and were troubled, and immediately he talked with them, and saith unto them, Be of good cheer, be not afraid. And he went up unto them, And he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased, and they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered, for they considered not the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. And when they were passed over, they came into the land of Gennesaret and drew to the shore. And when they were come out of the ship straightway, they knew him, and ran through the whole region round about, and began to carry about bed those that were sick, and they that heard where they heard he was. And whethersoever he entered into villages or cities or country, they laid the sick in the streets, and besought that he might touch it were but the border of his garment. As many as touched him were made whole. Now notice, the lady that had that happen to her, other people joined in and did the same thing. Hello. She told that story. I just told myself, if I can just touch his clothes, I'll be whole. So other people started doing the same thing. Remember, all things are possible to him that believes. All things. It isn't some things, it's all things. Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain scribes which came unto Jerusalem. And when they saw some of the disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashed hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not, holding to the tradition of the elders. People that are dead. It's funny how we follow stuff from people that are dead. Hello. Where'd you get that from? Oh, from a dead guy. But these guys had a certain thing that they would do. Certain area. Okay? Honestly. So much stuff that they, because control, that's what they wanted. You have to do it this certain way, or you're sick, or you're no good. And that I read it in, I believe it's Numbers. When they were come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. Many other things they be which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups, pots, brazen vessels, and of tables. A certain prayer, a certain clothing, a certain day, a certain time, a certain stance, a certain look, a certain feel, a certain attitude, all that junk. Just to share a story with you. I remember this guy. I was in college. And like I said, everybody tried to dispel me in college. Oh, he's a minister. Let's get him. That kind of stuff. And this dude who talked normal, but he was giving this story. So, of course, he gave his reservation drool. Yeah, my son was sick. And I had to go to the hills. He took the white man's medicine and it did not work. I mean, he went through this whole thing in that voice. So the story goes, he went to the hills, you have to go at a certain time, with a certain attitude, a certain season, and a certain day, with a certain feeling, and a certain look, and a certain whatever. And you have to get this medicine like that. Then you come and you bring it. He said, the white man's medicine didn't work for my son, but this did. I raised my hand. I said, hey, did he take the white man's medicine before he took yours? He said, yeah. I said, could it be that maybe finally the white man's medicine kicked in? He didn't like that. He changed his whole speech even. Yeah, that could be true. Come on, dude. The lonely stuff. But that's how it works sometimes. That's how it works. Okay. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? He answered and said unto them, well hath Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people draw nigh unto me with their mouth, honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines of the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of God, you hold the tradition of men, as of the washing of pots, cups, and many other such things, like things you do. And he said unto him, farewell, you reject the commandment of God, that you may keep your own traditions. And that's predominant today. For Moses said, honor your father and your mother. Whoso curses his father or mother, let him die the death. But you say, if a man shall say to his father or mother, it is Corban, that is to say, a gift of whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, he shall be free. Basically, what they were saying is the roles are reversed. When the parent gets old, they become the child because the child takes over to take care of them, and now the roles are reversed, so therefore they don't have to honor him anymore, which is baloney. And you suffer him no more to do aught for his father or his mother, making the word of God of none effect to your tradition, which you have delivered, and many such things like things do ye. When he had called the people unto him, he said unto them, hearken unto me, every one of you understand. There is nothing from within a man that entering can defile him. There is nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him. But the things which come out of him, those are the defile. Those are they that defile a man. If a man have ears to hear, let him hear. And when he was entering into the house from the people, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. And he said unto them, Are you so without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatsoever thing from without entered into the man, it cannot defile him? So in other words, there's nothing out there that can make you any dirtier than what you are. Nothing. Sorry. There's no influence out there. There's nothing that can make you any dirtier or worse than what you are. Period. Because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and it goeth out into the draught, purging all meats. And he said, That which cometh out of the man, that defiles the man. From within, out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornication, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these things come from within and defile the man. And from thence he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon, and entered into a house, and when no man knew it, but he could not be hid. For a certain woman, whose young daughter had an unclean spirit, heard of him, and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. But Jesus said unto her, Let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it unto the dogs. But she answered and said unto him, Yes, Lord. Yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs. And he said unto her, For this saying go your way, the devil is gone out of your daughter. And when he was come to her house, she found the devil gone out, and her daughter laid upon the bed. And again departed from the coast of Tyre and Sidon, he came into the coast of Galilee, to the midst of the coast of Decapolis. And they bring unto him one that was deaf, and had an impediment in his speech. But they beseech him to put his hand upon him. And he took him aside from the multitude, and put his fingers into his ears, and he spit and touched his tongue. And looking up to heaven, he sighed and saith unto him, Ephphatha, that is to be open. And straight his ears were open, and the string of his tongue were loosed. And he spake plain, and he charged them that they should tell no man. But the more he charged them, so much more a great deal they published it, and were beyond measure astonished, saying, He had done all things well. He maketh both the deaf to hear and the dumb to speak. Chapter 8. It's a long one too, ain't it? Well, 38. Let's see if we can do that in 8 minutes. If I read real fast, no. If we go a little bit over, that's cool. In those days, the multitude being very great, and having nothing to eat, Jesus called the disciples unto them, and saith unto them, Have compassion on the multitude, because now they have been 3 days, and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away fasting to their own houses, they will faint by the way, for divers of them come from far. And his disciples answered him, For whence can a man satisfy these men and bread here in the wilderness? So I remember one time, a little group I used to hang around with, we do Bible studies together. It was cool. And I said, you know what, let's throw a barbecue for people, just to be nice. So someone had some little dink barbecue, I remember that. Little tiny one. And it was an area, so there was a road that went this way. There was a little tiny sliver of grass and trees in the middle, and then the other road went that way. Right across was a treatment center. And my buddies, 2 guys, they had, a little bit of money. I said, well, you buy some, I'll buy some, and we'll just start feeding people. So we start cooking. People started showing up. And they asked, what is this for? And we were like, you hungry? Yeah. You got a stomach? Yeah. Then it's food. We didn't put a religious organization name on it. We didn't put any kind of church thing on it. We just said, if you were hungry, come and eat. So more people started showing up. We ran out of food. We ran out of food. Lo and behold, the people that had eaten previous said, oh, we're running out of food. Guess what? They teamed up together, the people that ate from what we gave, and went and bought more food. And before you know it, we fed more people. And it just kept going like that. We didn't tell anybody, hey, we need food. We didn't say anything. It just on its own, it went and did it. And you had this whole crowd of people, whole crowd of people. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes because it worked out. It worked out. But anyway, I remember this one time, one of my buddies, we were doing Bible study together, and he was upset. He was just mad. Like, he was always that way though. Quick to get angry and quick to walk off and quick to just shut it down. Anyway, really good friend of mine. Anyway, he went and he said, why should I be thankful to God? I'm hungry, man. I don't have any food in my place. I said, well, let's pray. Well, I tried praying. I said, well, I'll agree with you. All right, man. So we close our eyes. We're sitting at the bench. That's that same place, the road that goes this way and the road that goes that way. Natchez Avenue. And lo and behold, he goes and our eyes are closed. When he's talking about being hungry, he's talking about getting food. So we're praying about that. We're like, okay, God, you said you supply all our needs, blah, 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 help, that stuff. We open our eyes, and honestly, there's a dude standing there with a bag of cheeseburgers and fries. And he says, I see you guys here every day, Bible studying. And I always went by and thought, they might be hungry. I should bring them something. So today I decided to. Roland's like, my buddy's like, wow. So out of nowhere, he decides to call his food card. He finds out he has money on there or to buy food. And he had it for at least a week. Here he's complaining about not having food here. This whole time he had. He's like, wow, man, wow. That kind of stuff. All right. He was one of the guys, too, that helped me with that. We did that food thing. From whence can a man, and his disciples answered him, from whence can a man satisfy these men with bread here in the wilderness? And he asked them, how many loaves have you? And they said 7. And he commanded the people to sit down on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves and gave thanks and brake and gave to his disciples set before them. And they did set them before the people. And they had a few small fishes, and he blessed and commanded to set them also before them. So they did eat and were filled. And they took up the broken meat that was left, 7 baskets. And they that had eaten were about 4,000, and he sent them away. So far, 9 G's that he fed, besides women and children, one of them. And straightway he entered into a ship with his disciples and came into the parts of Dalmanutha. I always like that name, Dalmanutha. And the Pharisees came forth and began to question him, seeking of him a sign from heaven, tempting him. And he sighed deeply in his spirit and saith, why doth this generation seek after a sign? Verily I say unto you, there shall no sign be given unto this generation. And he left them and entering into the ship again departed on the other side. Now the disciples had forgotten to take bread, neither had they in the ship with them more than 1 loaf. And he charged them, saying, take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, it is because we have no bread. And Jesus knew it. He saith unto them, why reason you? Because you have no bread. Perceive you not, neither understand? Have you your heart hardened? Having eyes, see you not, and having ears, hear you not? And do you not remember when I break the 5 loaves among 5,000, how many basketful of fragments took you up? They say unto him 12. And when there's 7 among the 4,000, how many basketful of fragments took you up? And they said 7, 19. And he said unto them, how is it that you do not understand? That's true. I'm sitting here, honestly, a month ago, 2 months ago, and I'm like, because I don't not much eat for that particular reason. Fasting. And I'm like, man, Lord, but God makes a way. God makes a way. And he cometh to Bethsaida, and they brought a blind man unto him, and besought him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand, and led him out of the town. When he had spit on his eyes, and put his hands upon him, he asked him if he saw aught. And he looked up and said, I see men as trees walking. And after that he put his hands again upon his eyes, and made him look up. And he was restored, and saw every man clearly. And he sent him away to his house, saying, neither go into the town, nor tell it to any in the town. Jesus went out and his disciples into the towns of Caesarea Philippi. And on the way he asked disciples, saying unto them, who do men say that I am? And they answered, John the Baptist, the son of Elias, and others one of the prophets. And he saith to them, but whom say you that I am? Peter answered and saith unto him, thou art the Christ. And he charged them that they should tell no man of him. And he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things, and be rejected of the elders and the chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. And he spake that saying openly, and Peter took him and began to rebuke him. But when he turned about and looked on his disciples, he rebuked Peter, saying, get thee behind me, Satan. For thou savorest not the things that be of God, but the things that be of men. Wow. He initially said, get behind me, Satan. But then he didn't say, thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of, not hell, not demons, no, men. Hello. When he had called the people unto him, with his disciples also, he said unto them, whosoever will come after me, let him deny himself, take his cross, and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall save his life for my sake and the gospel's, the same shall save it. And that's been my situation. I want my life. I want what I want. And that's the truth. I ain't gonna lie to you. You know? But whosoever will lose his, oh no, for whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake and the gospel, the same shall save it. And it's not, well, the way they say it is. You know how they say it. Give it all up. Like I remember this, well, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world, lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Serious. Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him also shall the Son of Man be ashamed, when he cometh in the glory of his Father with his holy angels. We made it through chapter 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Ooh. We're almost there. Mark's almost done. See? 2 Gospels already we finished. And it's barely, what, the 18th? Anyway. Okay, so tonight I will do 9, 10, 11, 12. 4 of them. And then tomorrow, however, then we'll be in Luke. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for partaking, if you will. God bless. Have a great day. We'll see you on the rebound tip.